Hi, I'm Mark with AppMyHome. Welcome to our studio. So today I'm going to walk you through everything that we use to make individual videos as well as live streams. So let's start with the cameras. In front of me is a Sony ZV-E10. Above me for overhead shots is a Sony ZV-1. And both of these cameras are 4K. And then over to my side is actually my iPhone 13 Pro Max, also recording in 4K. Now, attached to the camera above me here is a Saramonic Vmic5 Pro. It's a shotgun mic that captures when Valerie and I are both behind here. It captures us both. As a matter of fact, if you notice that it actually is off at an angle, normally I sit to the left and she sits to the right, and I have it facing her more because, as you guys can tell, I have a more booming voice, so it captures it just about right. Cuts down on the amount of post-processing on audio that I have to do. So then also attached in the setup is a Viewsonic monitor. And the Viewsonic monitor is great because we can see how we're looking, if we have the lights set up right and everything else. So to power everything up here, we actually have a Kasa power strip in front of the table over here. And actually, if you look on this monitor over here on the iPad I have, actually I can control the power to each of the outlets that are hooked up to everything on this table. So everything is powered up, everything's going. I've got power coming to this iPad over here. I've got power coming to this iPhone. In fact, I'll bring this up over here. And I have power to this laptop and have power to this box over here. And so everything is powered up on the table through that power strip. And that means we don't have to worry about power going out, your camera running out of power. So we also have an Echo Dot with clock, and that's really nice to have it because A, we can keep track of what the time is, and B, if we're doing any smart home things that require using the Echo, we can actually make the command right here. To my left, we actually have a power strip, and this is not a smart power strip, but it's a power strip that lets us plug things in when we're doing the shows or we're doing any of the videos we do. It also has a couple of USB ports that gives us power to power up any of the devices we happen to be showcasing. Now, the other important part, of course, is lighting. So here I am lit up. And these are Elgato Key Lights. And they're really nice. They diffuse really well. And we can adjust their color temperature as well as their brightness. So that is really kind of handy. And I'm going to show you that in a minute. And they're all attached onto these things called the Elgato mount system. And what's really nice about that is that they're telescoping. So we can kind of mount them anywhere we want. And we can attach multiple things. So, for example, the lights are hooked up, as well as the microphone and the overhead camera are all hooked up to that system. So it makes it very nice, and they're all attached to the table. And what I like about that is there's not a lot of clutter in our room here. It leaves us enough space to kind of walk around and not have to deal with clumsy lights and things like that. So that's our basic setup for doing videos, right? Doing product videos and so forth. But the other thing we do is we do live streams. And to do live stream, we have a few extra things on this table. Now, normally, you wouldn't see the iPad or the iPhone or this laptop or this other box over here called the Stream Deck from Elgato. These are used when we're doing the live streams. The iPad is used to control the live stream setup. The MacBook Air actually runs our consoles on here. So, for example, what you're seeing right here is the console for our switcher. And on the left over here is the Elgato Stream Deck, as I mentioned. In front of me is the Blackmagic ATEM Mini Pro ISO. I know that's like a lot of words, but what the Mini Pro ISO lets us do is it lets us hook up 4 HDMI inputs. When the HDMI inputs come in, even if they're coming in at 4K, the ATEM only sees them at 1080p. And on those HDMI inputs, there's video and audio, and it's able to capture both. There is also 2 independent microphone inputs. So if we had extra mics and we want to hook them up, we could do that. Now, in our case, this microphone above me here is actually attached to the camera. So that means when the camera input comes in, it's HDMI, it's able to process both the video and the audio from that. Now, the other thing is that the ATEM lets us hook things up to this monitor. So this monitor where you see all these different screens, right, it's really being controlled by the ATEM. So you can always keep an eye on what's going on. Because when we're recording, for example, a lot of times you're just seeing what's in front of the main camera here. But if we have to go to the overhead camera, you see, when we want to take a look and maybe have a little finer look at what it looks like, I can come in here and I can switch that over to the overhead camera. And now I can see the overhead camera, so I know what's going on, right? I kind of have an idea what's happening. Or I can switch back I also see in the middle row there, you can actually see all 4 of those inputs there. On the left is the main camera. Then I just turned the phone on here, and you can see that the iPhone is showing up over here, and I could have hooked the iPad if I wanted to. The other thing is hooked up is the overhead camera. So see, this is the overhead camera, and that one's hooked up, as well as the MacBook Air. So all 4 of those things are hooked up. You'll notice little VU meters. You can actually tell what their sound output looks like, right? So I know right now, because those green meters are going, that the microphone is actually producing sound. The other thing that the ATEM does is when you're broadcasting, it sends out the stream out to the internet via an Ethernet cable. So we actually have an Ethernet cable connected up into a switch that goes out through our router. The other thing about the ATEM is it actually has a recording. So there's actually we have a Samsung T5 SSD sitting on it, and I can turn on the recording while we're doing a live stream. It will record all 4 of the channels coming in, all 4 videos coming in, only at 1080p. Also 2 additional mics if we wanted to, and all the sound coming from each of those devices, each, like for example, coming from the cameras and everything else, will all be recorded for later use if we want to use it, as well as the integrated stream. So all that happens with the ATEM. Now, in order to make all that work, you have to have a few pieces of software on your laptop. So we have a piece of software for the ATEM. We have another piece of software that allows us to connect up some of the other devices in the room, as well as the software that runs the Stream Deck. And this happens to be the Stream Deck Plus. So it's the latest model that's out there. And let me show you why I like that Stream Deck. So as you can see here, I can switch cameras. So just keep an eye on the monitor here. And right now I have the main camera on, but I can go to the iPad or the iPhone, like right here. So there it is. He's on there. And then I can go to the overhead camera or the screen here on the MacBook Air. So we'll have access to all that information, all by touching the panel over here. I could have also done it right from this box here. So I'll put that back over here. And there you go. Now the main monitor is showing the camera, the main camera. So either from that or from this Stream Deck Plus. So that kind of is how we kind of control everything that's on there. Now the other thing that's nice about the Stream Deck is we have these lights, right? And I mentioned before that you could actually change the color temp and also the brightness. I can also turn them off just by pressing a button, or I can turn them on. And then with the dials on this device, I can sit here and I can change the color temperature. So I'm a little more yellow, or I can make it a little bit brighter, a little more blue, I guess they would call it. Or I can change the intensity. So I can make it really bright, or I can make it really dim. And then I have a couple other buttons I've set up. One that sets the temperature I really want, as well as the percentage of intensity I have. So now I'm back to normal in that whole setup. So that kind of gives us total control of what we're doing over here. So when we're all done, we just take the SD cards out of the cameras. The iPhone is already transmitting it up to the cloud, so we have access to that footage. And if we happen to be recording to that SSD that's attached to the ATEM, all that stuff we can bring into my office where we do the post-processing. As you can see, it's a pretty sophisticated setup, and it's taken a long time to figure it all out. And there's a few people that helped along the way. Photo Joseph, Nikki's son with Tech Nikki Speaking, Jared Poland from fronosphoto.com, and finally, Future Media Conferences, because I go to a lot of their different conferences and we meet all sorts of great people that are really experts at things, and you can really learn a lot of things from those folks. That's it. That's the tour of our studio. So I'll put links to all the products I showed you here in the description below, and please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you.